Today's guest believes that dialogue is key to relationship. He's a graduate of Georgetown University and the author of a book titled The Rector Girls. She published this book with the hope of memorializing her mother and honoring her legacy. Welcome to the show, Grace. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. It's great to meet you.
Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Mirror Talk. I'm so happy and delighted to be speaking with you finally after over 2 months, I guess. Yeah, I'm so happy that we finally, found the time to sit down virtually to to talk about you, talk about your book, and talk about everything that you've experienced in the past. I really, admire your strength and your courage, to create a great life for yourself, even after the loss of your single mother before your 21st birthday, which happened just recently, over just less than 2 years ago. I'm so sorry for your loss. Can you share this story with me and how your journey has been so far, leading you to this, point in your life?
Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me. I'm really always grateful to have a space to share the story of my mom with people. But essentially, this book, The Rector Girls, came up just because when I lost her in February 2020, I kind of had this sense of urgency or fear of remembering the things that she taught me or favorite memories I had with her. I'm not sure if you've had any losses, but I'd never had a loss that significant. And so my biggest fear was, oh my gosh, imagine in 20 years, I forget, who my mom was fully, or what she did for me, or those moments that made me laugh, or all those different singular moments. And so in, I'd say March or April, once I had kind of had more time to process, I started writing letters to my mom in a journal, just telling her about my day and being like, hey, mama, this is what's been going on. This is how I'm feeling. A lot of it was kind of angry, just at her for leaving me. But then I would write down specific stories. Like, I remember the time that you bought me nail polish when a boy liked me back. Or I remember the time that you took me to school and I got nervous, but you took me to go get a piece of pie in the morning. These little moments that made my mom who she was to me. And as I continued to write these little stories and letters to her, I was approached by a professor at Georgetown that said, I'm teaching a class for students on how to write a book. And I was thinking to myself, strange. Maybe I should take those stories and turn them into a book. Yeah. And at first I was, excited, and I was like, oh, I should do that. And then part of me was also a little scared because I was wondering who would want to read these stories, or why would I want these intimate moments to be published? But I ultimately decided to write the book because I wanted people in my family, in my friends, or just strangers, to learn what an incredible woman my mom was. Yeah. Because throughout my entire life, people have always been like, you have such a crazy life. It's so unique. My mom being a single mother, having a child via sperm donor at 43 years old is not very typical. But I think the whole book is just about how when things didn't go her way, she just, accepted that and then said, okay, let's see how I can make this happen. Let's see. I don't have a man in my life, but I want a kid. So let me go get a sperm donor and do it myself.
Yes, a go-getter, achieving her goals, yes, and her dreams. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm sure your mother will be very grateful and happy that, you wrote something to remember her, something that you keep her here and immortalized, I assume.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yes.
She probably doesn't want everyone to know those moments, but too late.
Yeah, but someone's going to pick up the book, which is available on Amazon and other platforms, and someone's going to read it and say, yes, this is someone that's experienced this kind of thing or done this kind of thing. Maybe, this is a sign for me to do it also. This is a motivation for me, to achieve my goals this way or that way, according to what is in the book, without giving away anything that's in the book or any lessons that's in the book.
I was surprised because, like I said, I originally thought this book would just be for family and friends to read about intimate stories with my mom and I. But something that I wanted to do with the book was organize it by lessons. So every chapter is a different lesson. And I think it's pretty accessible for anyone who goes and buys the book and says, let me see if I agree or disagree with this, because this is not supposed to be this is how you live your life, but it's more of this is how my mom taught me to live my life, and here's how it's worked out.
Yes.
But like something that unfortunately we can't do during COVID right now is like chapter 4 is travel whenever possible. As simple as that sounds, I think a lot of the time in life, work happens or family happens and you're like, oh, I'll go on that trip eventually. But my mom was always reinforcing, no, do it now, because you never know what's going to happen in life. And I literally was in Bosnia in March 2020 and had to fly back because of the COVID border closures. But like, that was the last country I've been to internationally. And so if she hadn't really motivated me to travel in every single moment that I can, then I'd be, extra missing travel during the past year and a half.
Yes, that's true. That's a very important lesson. And we're going to talk about, more lessons later on during this conversation. But there's one thing that stood out with me when I was reading the review of your book. And that's your notes, the notes you wrote at the beginning. And I wish to read just a little bit of it before I ask you the next question I would love to know about. In your book, you wrote, I drove my mom's car home from the hospital on the night she died. My eyes stayed focused on the road. The street lights around me blurred as I sped by. I grabbed the steering wheel tightly as tears streamed down my eyes. Suddenly, I realized I had two important things to do: to get a tattoo and to write a book about my mom's life. Wow, that's like so deep. Can you tell me more about these director girls and tell me more about your mother's life? Is it possible for you to share about her life, how she led her life, and what led to her last days here on earth, and who was she to you, and how was she like?
That moment was very overwhelming. I mean, like I said, she's my single mom and I'm an only child. I have no aunts or uncles or cousins or grandparents. So when she died, she was like, I was the last family member. And so that on its own carried a lot of pressure. But I mean, a joke we'd always do is, or people would say is, you're like the Gilmore Girls. So that's kind of what inspired the title too.
Yeah.
But I think she was like my best friend, my first best friend, my first enemy, my first everything, because she and I spent so much time together. And, in a typical, with air quotes, typical family, if you get in a fight with your mom, you might go to your dad, or if you get in a fight with your mom, you might talk to your sibling about it. But in my family, like if we got in a fight, we would have to deal with it head on because we were the only two people in the house. And so
Yes.
I think our relationship was just so unique. And I actually think it was more of a partnership sometimes than a mother-daughter relationship, because she worked so much and had a lot going on. She also had a lot of medical stuff. So like I was expected to do a lot to support her. And so while she was my mom, she was also a dear friend, and I took care of her. She took care of me. But a specific story too that kind of showed what she meant to me. Like I mentioned, my mom and I travel a lot. And in January 2020, I was in a class at Georgetown. It was my junior year. And we had an assignment where we had to talk with a partner about what home meant to us. And I was trying to figure out how I would define home. And I was talking to my partner and I said, I think home is wherever my mom is, because she and I travel all the time and we go all over the world, and Los Angeles is where we're from, but it wasn't really the place that made it home. It was her that made it home. If we spent one time we spent Thanksgiving in India, but like I felt at home because I was with her. And then a month later she died. And that was really, really tough for me to have identified that home is wherever she is and then to lose her. And so I've definitely been grappling with what home means to me since she passed away. Just because she was the person that I went to for everything. She told me what to do. She'd criticize me. She'd cheer for me. She'd do everything. So losing someone that's central to who I am has definitely been tough. And I felt like through writing this story, it was kind of my love letter to her and my letter of gratitude for everything that she taught me throughout her life.
through writing these stories about her or the lessons that she taught you also helped you to, live through the grief of losing her, right? Because how was it like, having that so intimate bond with her and then all of a sudden losing her? How was that like for you at the initial stage? How were you able to, overcome that depression, I assume, or that darkness that, fell suddenly upon your life? How are you able to, come out of that?
I'm a very strong person, I'd say, or a very positive person. But something that I've learned through grief is that strength is not always not crying or trying to move on. Sometimes strength or courage is letting yourself feel that sadness or darkness that often is overwhelming at the beginning of grief. At least for me, because I acknowledge that grief is different for everyone. But there's a moment in the book. This was the day she died, actually, because I was in Georgetown. I was in DC when I got the phone call that she'd had a heart attack. And this was after she had a successful kidney transplant surgery. So we were expecting this kidney transplant surgery to give her 10 more years of life without dialysis, which is, the process that people are on that have polycystic kidney disease or problems with their kidneys. Yeah. And so I'd been there for the surgery, but like 3 weeks after the surgery, she had this heart attack, and I got that phone call and was just kind of numb and in shock, and just really, I guess that day that I got that call, I was just like, I can't even imagine what a life would look like without her. Like, they didn't tell me she was dead or anything. They just told me that she was on life support, essentially, after the heart attack. And I was still kind of numb that day. But then the next morning I was in my home in Los Angeles at that point, and they told us that we had to go to the hospital to talk to some doctors, which is not usually a good sign. And so that morning, I think, was like the peak of my grief, in that I just remember like taking the shower and just like scream crying, because I felt I had so many people around me that I didn't want to freak out. I had so many people that were taking care of me, but I also felt like I had to take care of them. And while I'm an only child, I have kind of adopted siblings. They're not actually adopted, but they're extended family to me. And so I can imagine that other people that are in families that go through grief, it's a little messy, because it's not like you can just do whatever you want because you want to take care of other people, but they're trying to take care of you. And so at the end of the day, no one can really fully embrace the sadness. So that moment for me in the shower, just like sobbing, was that moment for me to fully just acknowledge how I was feeling. And I think that was a moment that was just so good for me to just let that out, because I think holding in the grief, and I've seen some of my family members do that, just hold it in, because it seems safer that way to not actually honor how you're feeling. But sometimes letting it fully out is what's going to be most nourishing for you. And I guess like my 2021 resolution was to tell people how I actually felt when they asked me how I was doing. It's normal for us to say, "How are you doing?" And they're like, "Great, how are you?" But sometimes I'm not great, and sometimes I'm having a bad day. So like now when my friends are like, how have you been? And I'm like, haven't been great, but I'm doing my best. So I think grief has taught me the importance of honesty and being self-aware, and also just noting when your body needs the time to be sad and to grieve and to heal in its own way, before you're just pushing yourself to keep going with your life. Because sometimes that can actually be more hurtful if you're not taking those breaks to cry or to reflect or just talk to people about the person that you lost.
Yeah, that's so insightful. And once more, I'm so sorry for the loss of your mom. Like, it's so painful, and I'm so proud of you that you're able to like pull through that period or that phase of your life. And even though I'm sure you're still like pulling through, but you are getting stronger by the day, I assume. Or you are stronger at the initial stage, but getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And even with this book, you are making great success and also impacting other people's life through what you've experienced and through what your mom has taught you also. That's very wonderful. That's awesome. Thank you. One thing I learned from you right now is like, allowing yourself to feel those feelings, allowing yourself to expressing yourself, and do not suppress any of your emotions. That's one thing I got from you right now, and that's a key lesson for me also. Like, or anyone who is listening out there, just feel your feelings, express your emotions, and let it go and let it out.
It's easier said than done, though. If someone says, hey, don't suppress your feelings, you might be like, yeah, I want to cry right now, but I also have all this crap I have to do for work. Or like, I have to, finish this assignment, or I have to do this thing. And it's like, you might want to not suppress your emotions, but it's really hard to make time for yourself and to prioritize yourself in comparison with things like work or other family members. So it's easier said than done, but it's important to acknowledge it. Yeah.
And earlier you were talking about, extended family, like you have like people around you and all that. So can you tell me more about the importance of having, friendships or community or a network of support, especially in a time of grieving or, in a time of a loss or difficult situation?
Yeah. Actually, the first chapter of the book is choose your community, because I think that's the most important part of my mom's life, and it has become the most important part of mine. I remember she said once that like people were like, oh my God, like, can't believe you're a single mom. Like, that must be so hard raising her alone. Like, you're all alone, you're alone, you're alone, you're alone, right? Yeah. And she was like, I'm not raising this child alone. Like, I would never raise this child if I was alone. And they were like, what? And she was like, I have the best friends. I have the best community. I have these people that are going to show up at my house and take my daughter around the block while I'm taking a nap, And so she always had these people that were taking care of her and looking out for her. But the reason she had those friends and community members that would really do anything for her was because she was so good at taking care of other people. So it was kind of an exchange of care and just loving one another. And I think it's important to note the kind of extended family I was talking about before, just because I think it's really a beautiful idea of the importance of creating your family versus just taking the family that you got. I know a lot of people that don't love their, given family, but that's why chosen and like family that's created is so important. And so in the book, I talk about my 4 siblings. Another air quote. My mom worked at a elementary school in Lenox, in Los Angeles, and created an adopt a student program or a mentorship program where staff members would adopt a student, not legally, but like just kind of take them under their wing, mentor them throughout middle school, maybe high school, however long the relationship went. And my mom, going above and beyond, mentored 4 students at the age of like 7th grade, like 12 years old, 13 years old. And those individuals are now who I call my brothers and sisters now. They're 40 years old now. But my mom I don't really in the book, I interviewed my siblings and said, how did mom choose you? Or like, why did you go, be part of my mom Pam's mentorship group? And a lot of them had a lot of home issues or just like behavioral issues, or they just didn't get the love that my mom thought that she wanted to share with them or something. And so she created a family with them and took them to Disneyland and went out to dinner with them for all their birthdays. And my sister's birthday's coming up soon. And so even though I'm not there, they're going to go out to dinner, even though my mom's not here. But she created a family of choice, not by blood. And I really consider them my siblings, which is really beautiful. And just to show that, when we were going to the doctors for a kidney related issue, my sister Alejandra came with me, and the doctor was like, all right, who are these people? She pointed to me and said, that's my sister, or sister, I wish. that's my daughter by blood. And then she pointed to Alejandra and said, that's my daughter by love. Just the daughter that I chose to love and have in my life. So my mom worked so hard to make all the people in her life feel loved. And in exchange, they loved her right back and did their best to take care of her. So we even had a group chat at the end called Pam's Tribe, of people that would offer to bring meals after her surgery and take care of her. So I really admired that about her, and I'm trying to create my own community as I grow older. So.
Oh, that's a mother with a big heart. Like, yeah,
Big
wow.
heart.
So can you teach me, how can we, wisely choose our community, our friends, or network of support like your mother did? How can we do that wisely? Yeah.
Again, easier said than done. You can surround yourself with as many people as you want, but I've found, and I don't know about you, but I found that in the pandemic, I actually talk to less people, and I only talk to the people that make me feel loved and wonderful and supported, and that friends that would take me for exactly as I was. And so I would say that I think the way that my mom approached it was she made the person that she was talking to feel like the only person in the world. So have you ever had a conversation with someone where you're telling them something important, they're just kind of looking around, or like they respond and they don't seem like they understood anything you said?
Yes.
That's happened, right? It's happened to everyone. Yeah. But what my mom did is whatever you were talking about, she would just lock eyes with you. She would just open her heart, her mind, her ears, her everything, and just listen. And rather than try to problem solve, she would just ask follow-up questions. And how does that make you feel? Okay, what would make you happy right now? Where do you feel happy? How about we go to the beach? She just would fully listen to you in a way that you felt very seen and heard, and you didn't feel judged. You didn't feel, you just felt accepted by her. And so that's a way that I think you can bring in people and get people to be your friends, but like people that care about you deeply. And I think like leading by lesson or modeling, by doing that for other people, you might hope that they might do that for you as well. But I've definitely done that with my college friends by just making their life and what's going on in their minds and whatever, like a priority for me, and listening fully and not trying to fix them or not trying to create any solutions, but just like being there for them all the time. And my way of showing love is through gifts. So finding out your way of loving people and just showing up, sending handwritten cards, and just, I think, to doing things in your community consistently. So my mom and I volunteered a lot at different organizations in Los Angeles, but we volunteered so much that we knew everyone's names. It wasn't like a once a month thing where you're just like, hi people, I'm here to serve you. Okay, bye. It was like, I'm here because I love you, and I'm here because I enjoy spending time with you. I'm not like serving you. We're helping each other. It's kind of, she really prioritized relationships and said and didn't expect anything in return. So it's very complicated. I don't really know, step one, but I think just authentically being a good friend to other people and showing them that you care, and hopefully if they care about you as well, then they do the same.
What I got from that right now is like, you should be the kind of person you want in your life. Like, the kind of people you want in your life. I've exhibited that characteristic. Like, if you want people that are open-minded, people that listen, people that give gifts, do that also. And you those people. Yes.
What about you? What would you say? How do you create your community?
Wow, that's that's a very good question. Actually, I believe also, like you said, like your mom also did, that you attract the kind of person that you are to yourself. So I always try my best to be good, to be the kind of person I want my friend to be. That's what I do, and that's why I could, connect with what you are saying. Like, I try to be at a good place where good people are also, so that I have a bigger chance of, meeting people that are like myself, or people that are like-minded, or people that, have the same kind of ideas or goals like I do have.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also think too, like, it's kind of nice to find people that will push you. Like, I like friends that call me on my shit, because if I have friends that are just like, too nice to me, I'm never going to grow. And I agree with you that you should have friends that have the same values, but also someone that has high standards for you and will make sure that you're not slacking and that you're treating everyone kindly. And, if you say something mean, be like, hey, that wasn't cool.
Exactly.
Don't do it again. So I think finding people in your life that love you, take care of you, nurture you, but also will call you out. Because my mom called me out a lot and I missed that. And so I look for people that will hold me to the same standards.
Yes, that's very important. Like we have to build a community that pushes each other forward, like, and, helps each other to build each, like your goals, build your life personally, and also, just achieve your goals together. Yes.
Yeah.
That for me is very important. And also love, also feeling like you're in a family, that you're accepted wherever you are for who you are.
Exactly.
And how you are. Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And your book is, divided into sections. You have the before and the after, and you have different chapters filled with different, lessons that your mom taught you. So, but one thing that I want to ask, I don't want us to talk about all the lessons, because I want everyone that's listening to this episode to pick up a book of the Rector Girls, read it. It's not only for girls, it's for boys also. You can pick it up, order it on Amazon and read it, and read the lessons that Grace's mother taught her. So can you tell me about Ask and You Will Receive? That's like the second chapter. Tell me about the lesson your mom taught about Ask and You Will Receive. Because I love to receive and I love to ask.
That's funny you choose that one, because based on the people that I've talked to that have read the book, they actually really resonated with that chapter. I had a friend the other day that said, I asked and I received, because I put it out there. And my mom would always say, the worst thing they can say is no. If you say, hi, can I have a free ticket to this show? Like, the worst they say is no. But the best case, they say, okay, sure. Or like, just, I don't know. It's in the little things too. Like, there's a lot of people that don't want to be an inconvenience on other people, and so they don't ask for what they need. But where that lesson came from, at least in practice in my life, was I realized that I started getting frustrated with some of my friends. Like, why don't you know what I need? Like, why don't you know how to comfort me? Why don't you know how to talk to me? Like, I just need this, right? Yeah. And my mom taught me how to identify my needs. It's a really hard skill to have, but she taught me how to reflect and say, okay, I need to talk to someone on the phone right now, or I just need a nap, or I just need to eat, or like, I need something, right? Yes. But that also applies to your friends only know how to help you if you tell them what you need, right? So that lesson of ask and you shall receive, I called my friends in the midst of my grief and said, I would really like if you could call me twice a week to check on me. Do you think you could do that? And they were like, yes, of course. Yes, I can. But they didn't know that that's what I needed, because how would they know if I didn't tell them, right?
True.
But it could also manifest in I need help, right? That's something that a lot of people don't do because they don't want to seem helpless. But like, asking for help is such a powerful thing, because you're admitting that you're not the strongest person out there, that you're not perfect, and be like, hey, I don't really get this. Can you help me? And then they might help you, right?
True.
But it applies in everything. And I find myself asking that a lot. Like, can I ask something right now? Do I need help? Okay, let me ask. Will they say no? Maybe. But will they say yes? Maybe, right? Yeah. So in that chapter specifically, the example that I gave was or maybe it's a different chapter, but I was traveling to Bolivia from Chile, and I got stuck on the border. And so I couldn't get back to Chile. And I was like, what do I do? Like, I that's not a situation you ever imagine yourself in. And most people might freak out. I'm not going to say I didn't freak out for a little bit. But then I was like, okay, what do I need? Let me take a breath. And what do I need? I need money to find a way back. Yeah. I need a car. I need someone to drive me back, because there's no other way. And I need to do it soon. So I took a breath, and I needed food because I was really hungry and I had been traveling for a lot of hours to try to get there. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I need money, because I'm in Bolivia, keep in mind. I only have Chilean dollars. I don't have Bolivian currency, right? Yes. So I'm like, okay, I see a lady that has a money something. So I was like, let me exchange money with you. Totally ripped me off, but I was like, I need money. got money while I'm breathing. One of the chapters is take a breath, which is huge. But I'm like breathing, freaking out. I got food, and then my asking began. I asked every single truck driver. And when I say truck driver, I mean like the big cargo trucks that are carrying things across the border. And I was like, in Spanish, I was like, hello, sir, can you please drive me like 7 hours south to the city in Chile? They were like, no, sorry. Next guy, hi, can you take me to Chile? No, sorry. And I asked for probably 4 hours, person after person. And eventually some guy was like, sure. I was like, seriously? And he was like, yeah. And that's a very extreme example, but this guy took me 7 hours south. I got there and like offered to pay him, and he's like, no, friends don't pay for each other. I was like, seriously? Wow. So again, dramatic. Asking and receiving is also asking for help in little things, but because I had that determination to continue to ask for what I needed, even after someone said no, allowed me to get safely to Chile and off of the border. But I think it's good that you pointed that out, because that's something that you can do daily, whether it's in work. I don't get what to do. Can you help me? Or I'm a teacher, and sometimes I'm just so overwhelmed. And while I want to be the perfect teacher that can handle everything on my own, I'm like, I need 2 adult staff in my classroom today because I can't handle this on my own. If they said, sorry, we don't have anyone available, at least I asked. And if they do, then I'm set and I have the support that I need.
Exactly. Because that's one thing I'm also learning currently. And also, I've been learning so far, which is, whenever I need something, whenever I cannot do something on my own, I have to put myself out there to be helped. I have to open myself up and say, yes, please, I need help. Put myself in a place where people can help me. It could take 4 hours, for example. It could take 2 days. It could take a year, but at least I'm putting myself in a place and out there to be helped. And, to get that burden off my chest, off my back, and, move forward probably with asking for help out there and receiving, the support or the attention that I need at that moment to solve that problem. Yes. That's so awesome. That's a wonderful lesson that your mom taught you, or that you even experienced yourself from, asking out there. Yes.
She taught me a lot.
Yes. I mean, being stranded at the border, could be related to our life stories, for example, or our personal life. Could be stranded in any, relationship, or stranded in any circumstances of life. And if you didn't ask the truck drivers, you wouldn't have met the one that, that took you across the border to your destination. Yes, and that means you won't be able to get to the point in your life you want to get to without, asking various people. And you did not give up also. That's one thing I learned too. You did not give up. You kept on asking until that one driver accepted to pick you up. And that's one thing I believe we do, or I do. Like, after asking 2-3 truck drivers, I just give up and say, okay, I am helpless.
As normal people should, but I was never.
Yes, but don't give up. You want to get somewhere, keep on asking for help until you get the help that you need to get there.
I mean, another example is I was at my graduation, my college graduation, and met a friend's parent. And the parent asked me, like, oh, so what do you want to do after graduation? And I said, I want to do international education. I'm looking for somewhere to teach internationally, right? Expressing my need. Yes. And she said, I work at this school in Chile. You should apply and work for us. I was like, what? And a week later, I got the job. Wow. And had I not said that, had I said, I don't know, I'll take any job. I don't know what I need, what I want. But like, by saying I want to be a school teacher internationally, and then someone else saying, hey, I can help you, and then receiving that, it can change your life. Like jobs, personal, like in every part of your life, asking for what you need or expressing what you want is just going to help you. And I think that lesson of your friends can only help you as much as you express what you need has been a really important lesson for me. Even my therapist said, do you go to a restaurant and expect the waiter to know what you want? No, you have to tell them what you want so that they can help you, which I thought was a great comparison.
Yes, that's a wonderful lesson I'm taking home from this episode. So, like from your experience, like how would you advise someone out there to live their life with fullness and gratitude, especially after suffering a loss?
Yeah. Living with gratitude was something that my mom did extraordinarily well. Her license plate said grateful on it. I still have the car, so when I'm driving around, it just makes me smile. But I think something she did literally in her last year of work, without knowing she was dying, without knowing, or not dying, but without knowing what was in her future, she told everyone at work, okay, the theme of this year is gratitude. We are going to, give affirmations to each other. We're going to thank each other for what we're doing. And she just had such a positive view of life. And that's not a positive view where you're ignoring the bad things, because she could call things out for being shitty. She would be like, this sucks. And I have this beautiful daughter. I have this beautiful family. I am grateful for all the people that make me smile. And so I think the best piece of advice I could give for how to live a life full of gratitude is to hold the negative and the positive. Because if you're telling yourself, shut up, don't be sad because you have all these wonderful things, it's important to say, I might not have gotten that job, or this boyfriend just broke up with me. But be like, that's not important because I have all this. Yes. But what you can do is say, I recognize that this sucks. And and I have this wonderful job that I love, or I have this wonderful family member that I love, or I am happy where I am, or just like focusing on the little things and trying not to obsess too much on the things that you can't control. Granted, again, easier said than done, and I'm working on that. But I guess just recognizing the things that make you happy. I keep a journal every day, a gratitude journal, and I write down 3 things I'm grateful for every day, because it's so easy to get sucked into the crappy things that have happened throughout the day. But just taking a breath and taking a moment and saying, I'm really grateful that my friend called me today to see how I'm doing, or I'm so grateful that I am lucky enough to live in New York City, or I'm so grateful that I know what I want in life. It could be anything, but just being able to have that moment to recognize those things is super powerful. And something that I've done too is if I'm ever just like thinking of someone that I'm grateful for, or I write them down in my journal, I'll text them or call them and say, I'm just really grateful that I can call you a friend. And it's those little things that I think really make someone's day, or makes me happy, makes me smile, even though there's a lot that's bad in the world. But I think holding them in tandem, as opposed to just rejecting the bad and focusing on the good, I think it's like recognizing the bad and also at the same time recognizing what's good.
We have to be grateful in our situation. Yes. Wow.
What are you grateful for today, Toby?
I don't have to even think twice. I'm grateful that I'm sitting right here, right now with you, having this wonderful conversation. That's like the peak of my day, actually. Like sitting down with Grace and speaking with her about her book. Yes, I've been looking forward to this conversation from hours ago, and I'm like, right now it's happening. So I'm very grateful for that. And after this, I'm going to be so joyful and happy and jumping up and down that I spoke with you today.
I'm glad to hear that.
And one thing that's also awesome about you is that you created a dialogue series with the goal of highlighting vulnerability as a strength in the workplace and not as a weakness. So can you tell me about this dialogue series?
Yeah. So I created, it's called Discern and Digest. And I co-created it with the head of the Beck Center. It was a social impact hub at Georgetown. But you might be familiar with like the idea of brown bags, where there's a guest speaker that comes to work and then you just ask them questions and they tell you their answers. But what we realized about that was when you just put the spotlight on the speaker, the students, or like the student workers at this center, didn't get to talk about their experience at all. It was like assuming that the speaker, the experienced person, was the only one who deserve to speak, kind of. Does that make sense? Like that you weren't giving the students the space to reflect. And so what we decided to do through Discern and Digest was to bring in speakers still, but have them tell a story for about 10 minutes, an intimate story, and have them share this story and then end with a question. Because I think a lot of the time when we think about experts, it's they know everything. Yeah. But experts have also struggled with a lot. And so I'd have people come in. I had someone from Chemonics come in to the Beck Center and share the question, how do we move beyond diversity and create inclusive spaces? And in that conversation, we were talking about what, like, some organizations are tokenizing the idea of diversity. We have, 20% people of color in this office. So check, we're diverse. Versus what does inclusivity look like? If you have this, quote, diverse workforce, what kind of structures or tools or like programs do you have to make sure that everyone's included and everyone's voice is valued? Yeah. We also had a really cool conversation about like when do you step in? When do you advocate for someone else? And when are you like overbearing, basically? Yeah. So like how to advocate for others without imposing your privilege or imposing your perspective. But I think at the end of the day, the reason why this dialogue series was so important to me was because as students, we didn't have that space to say, I don't know, because especially at Georgetown, people are valued for knowing the answer to everything. And being in a space to be like, this is what I'm struggling with. This is the question that I'm bringing to the space. I don't know the answer. I don't know how to fix it, but can we talk about this together? Can we break down the question? So rather than like the goal of the series was not to answer how to create inclusive spaces. It was breaking down, what is diversity? Why do we value diversity? What does inclusivity look like? Like, why is that important? And so I think the world is often focused on just rushing to the answer or rushing to the fix to a problem, as opposed to just sitting in it and being vulnerable and connecting experiences and saying, this is what I think it looks like, but I don't know. Or is this causing more harm? And I really wish that adults in typical workforces would have that kind of space for people to feel comfortable and brave enough to bring questions that they're struggling with to the table. Because sometimes people just hold it in because they're afraid of what other people will say. But by creating an intentional space that's dedicated to being brave and asking hard questions, I think that can lead to some really great conversations.
Yes, that's true. I also believe that, like, not just being diverse, but also including everyone in the community, in the place of work, actually, also. And one thing I've been getting to learn, because I'm originally from Nigeria, in Africa, and I've been in Germany for quite a while now. And one thing I've been learning is that, even though I'm in a community that is diverse, like there are other people from other communities and other countries or races, I should not, also hide myself or feel too shy to be active or proactive in the community. Yeah, because for a community or a workplace to be inclusive, the individuals also have to be ready to contribute to the community or to the workplace also.
It's like, what's the point of having you there if you don't have the ability to like share your voice as much, or you don't feel like you can give everything that you have? And I think a lot of the time, like, people are just valued based on their education or their social standing or something. But like the reason why diversity is important is because people come from different backgrounds, have different experiences, and thus can look at a problem with so many different lenses that you'd be missing if you have like a singular homogeneous workplace. So I think to just, I could go on for this forever, but like in response to like the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States, I think it's really fantastic to see that companies are trying to be more inclusive and more diverse, but it also seems a little bit like they're tokenizing the idea just because that's the movement that's happening, as opposed to authentically like, supporting Black voices. And I have a lot of friends that are going into diversity roles, and company executives are like, solve our issues for us. And I'm like, that's not a fair problem to put on someone's shoulders. So
true.
It's an important conversation that I think, especially race, is something that people are uncomfortable to talk about, but it's something that needs to be talked about. So that it's not, sidelined.
I believe that, yes. But how can we learn to, ask good questions or to reflect or to discern, like from your dialogue series?
It's a great question. That's something that I realized from an early age, that I'm good at asking questions. I mean, it's funny because we're on the podcast and you're asking me all the questions. But I think it's because I have a genuine curiosity about me. And I find that, I mean, like, even this is so, meta, but whatever, like, even the question, how are you? That's such a loaded question that, like, people don't actually respond to, like, if I ask you how you're doing, again, you'll just be like, good, great, whatever, even if you had a crappy day. But so I guess my mom, again, she brought me all around the world traveling. And, even we went to Guatemala when I was 5. We went to Rwanda to learn about the genocide when I was 13, and like attended a lot of interviews with people to learn about their stories. And I don't know what about traveling and meeting people so different from myself, or just with different stories, that like, I just wanted to know, and I just wanted to ask, and I wanted to say, even when I was 5, I was like, where's your oven? How do you cook? Like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And it was a genuine question. And so how that's developed, I guess, is when I meet people different from myself or similar to myself. Like, I just want to ask as opposed to assume things about someone. And I think that I read an article about the art of asking questions. That's like, the most important discoveries didn't come from the best answer. It came from the best questions, right?
Yes.
Like creating electricity. It wasn't because they were like, light bulb. It was, I'm not a scientist, so I can't even find the question that he asked, but like, if I combine this and this, what would happen, right? The best discoveries happen from being genuinely curious. And those kind of discoveries, I think, is what my life is all about. And I always want to be pushing and learning. And so I think the best question is one that doesn't have an immediate answer, but causes you to think and reflect. My mom taught me all about reflection, and that's something that I value. And I think the more people can ask questions and get to know people, the more peaceful and harmonious the world would be. And I think too, especially in the US, with like all its polarization of, for example, Democrats versus Republicans, like they're not taking the time in some cases to ask the questions. They're just saying, oh, Republicans believe this. Oh, Democrats believe this, instead of going up to someone and saying, why do you believe what you believe? Why do you think that this is correct or this is wrong? And I don't know. That's my idealistic view of the world. But I think people just need to talk to one another and ask more questions to try to understand where they're coming from, and not ask so that they can say, well, actually, blah, 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 but like ask genuinely to say, oh, I didn't even think about that. Like, that makes sense why you believe that. I don't agree with you, but like, now I understand where you're coming from.
Yes. That's so brilliant. Yeah. Wow. If there's one thing you want a listener of this podcast episodes to take home from this, like, what would that one thing be?
Keep in mind, I am a 22-year-old girl who has seen a lot of the world, but still has a lot left to go. But I guess based on my experience, I just think like this is a word that I didn't really realize in myself until recently. My name is Grace. And as a teacher, it's been extremely, extremely hard. And something that I've learned is to give myself grace. And that means to give myself flexibility, to give myself peace, calm, to like, I don't know, just allow yourself to be how you are. So I would encourage people to give yourself grace and to not be so hard on yourself if you don't do things right, and know you can do better, but also like acknowledge you're only a human and make mistakes. But I think being grateful for the good things in your life, and also being kinder to yourself. So giving grace to yourself, but also just being kinder to yourself is something that's hard, but something that is really great. And difficult, because you're like, again, I could be doing this productive thing, but I also need to sit and eat some ice cream, but like, just
Yes,
taking
yes.
care of yourself, I think, is the biggest lesson I could give, especially given the past 2 years that we've all had, and just taking a break, taking a breath, and focusing on the things that we love, and just being kind to yourself.
What's the best way to get your book, and what's the best way to connect and work with you?
Yeah, so you can get the book on Amazon. It's called The Rector Girls. You can also go to my website, which is Grace Mariana Rector, and Mariana is spelled Mariana, gracemarianarector.com. And my email is gracerector@gmail.com.
Awesome. I'll place all of this information in the show notes for this episode. So I encourage everyone who's listening to copy the link, to click on the link and just get across to Grace. Buy the book for sure, and also get across to her to work with her or to ask her more questions that we were not able to cover in this podcast episode. Thank you so much, Grace, for everything you taught me today. I learned, so much. I learned about gratitude. I learned about asking and receiving. I learned about focusing on what matters, and a lot more. A lot of lessons I learned from you today. Thank you, and I really admire again your strength, your courage, for pulling through, and also for impacting people's life through your own personal experience. This is something that is so awesome and so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Toby. It was great to meet you.
Wow, you made it to the very end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm grateful for your time, your love, and your contributions. Subscribe, like, review, and share this podcast. God bless you. Bye.